Okay, show me on stream. I'm there. Oh, I see my mic thing's lighting up. All right. Sorry. It's Thursday. This stuff is usually, isn't this my usually Monday when things aren't working, and now it's Thursday. But okay. Hopefully you're hearing me. My little beep bop boop things are working. Great. Well, welcome everybody. Something I want to say, I call it different, but I'm here with this is the Golden Age and and yeah, let's see. Was it Brian Smith saying how it's pronounced? I want to say Khares, Golden Age. Khares could be Khares, could be Khares. I'm not exactly sure. Let me pop it up. This is currently in Kickstarter. Here we go. Currently in Kickstarter. I made connection with the author through Reddit. I don't remember if someone put out a call for, hey, does anybody review stuff? And I said, yeah, I do on my channel. And then somebody reached out to me. I think saw that posting there, reach out to me. I don't remember if I had responded to Sam or Sam had. Anyway, however it happened, we got into contact, and he asked me, hey, would you like to take a look at this? I said, sure. Here's the Kickstarter page. I didn't have a chance to link to it in the show description. I will. It's got 24 days to go. See here, wonderful cover, and it looks like, let's see, to get a copy is PDF to get everything, $20. $20 for the PDF on everything. The version I have, the reason why I'm showing this first, here you can see here, you get some images, is the version I have, he said to me last month, I'm not sure if it's the latest and greatest, and it also is not beautifully typeset like this. It's I guess at least a pre-layout draft. I'm not sure how many, if it's fully gone through all the editing passes it's going to do. It definitely hasn't gone through some of this layout stuff. So when you're looking at what you're going to see when I pop open the PDF, it's not going to look like this, but be not alarmed. I mean, obviously, I think always the content's more important than the kind of layout stuff anyway, but be not alarmed at like, oh my gosh, this looks kind of clunky or whatever. It's in kind of draft form, and you can see here from these sample pages what will be reflected in the finalized version. Obviously, I don't have a finalized version. I just have this. So that's what we're going to look at. He sent me this PDF. He hasn't asked me for anything for me to say anything particular. And of course, I do this stuff live, so I can't even ask. I couldn't even if I wanted to say, hey, do you mind if I post this? Because, well, I call it like I see it as we're going through it. So there's kind of the background. I'll put this link, I'll put it in the chat as well if you just want to go check it out and read more about it. I suppose I should read just the top of here, and then we'll get into the actual document itself. What is the Golden Age of Khares? I guess that's how I'm going to pronounce it, Khares. The Golden Age of Khares is a psychedelic sword and sandal setting source book designed for the tabletop RPG system Low Fantasy Gaming. In it, the Kharesian Empire is described, a fictional Bronze Age society made up of a collection of city-states with a shared culture. The world of Khares is one of sword and sandal high adventure that takes inspiration from old biblical epics and Italian peplum films. So there's that. Now we'll get into this version. Ba-boom, boom. So it's going to be Low Fantasy Gaming compatible. That'll be great for some, which also means it'll be generally OSR compatible as well. Hey, Boho Hart is here, the creator. Welcome. So feel free to correct all the mistakes that I make. Now this is a large book. I can't imagine getting through it in a single hour. So I'm probably going to pick and choose. I'm going to mostly, I think, and folks, feel free to chime in as you see me flipping through this book, but I'm probably going to zoom in more on the sort of setting info, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of mechanics or intro or all that kind of stuff. I'm probably going to breeze through that stuff to get to the meat and kind of what I hope will be the kind of interesting things in here. I will read this stuff at the top here because I think it's more scene setting, so to speak. Welcome to the Golden Age of Khares. Oh, Boho. Before you leave, how do we pronounce Khares? Is it Khares, 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 something else? Let me know so I can get that pronunciation correctly. In the meantime, I'm going with Khares. Welcome to the Golden Age of Khares, the zenith of power for the Kharesian Empire. The Kharesian Empire is a Bronze Age civilization made up of a collection of city-states. Okay, we got that already. There are multiple ethnicities and cultures that fall under the rule of the Kharesian Empire, each with their own rich traditions and history. The Kharesian Empire is unified in their belief of the sun goddess Atara and shared democratic values over tyranny. The Kharesian Empire is a pastiche of numerous historical cultures infused with a flair of pop culture influence, such as Italian peplum films and biblical epics of the 1950s and 1960s. The setting takes influence from a myriad of well-known ancient cultures, such as ancient Egypt, Sumeria, Assyria, and the Minoans, Mycenaean Greeks, the Hittites, pre-Islamic Arabia, and the ancient Levant. And this is compatible with low fantasy gaming, as we can see over here. What the source book is not. The source book is not designed to be a historically accurate depiction of Eastern Mediterranean Bronze Age cultures. There are several anachronistic elements present in the setting to play up commonplace tabletop fantasy RPG tropes, such as metal coinage, taverns, inns, and the like. If you're looking for an accurate depiction of societies such as ancient Egypt or the Minoans, this is not the best source book to use. Parisian like Parisian. All right, I got that. Ryan Smith says there's got to be some kind of Scorpion King in here. Please tell me not The Rock's horrible CGI Scorpion King from, what was that, The Mummy 2? And then I know there were Scorpion King spin-off movies as well. And I love the first Mummy movie of Brendan Fraser is awesome. Benny, one of the best kind of toady bad guy antagonists, period. But Mummy 2, no, sir. No, sir. Okay. So we got that out of the way. Table of contents, pretty simple. I'm going to kind of skip through that. Get some credits. Good stuff. We have a glossary of terms. I'm going to skip over these, but it's probably, I like that they have them. And I like, hey, not only do I like that they have it, but it's up front. So guess what? I can read if I had the time to read through everything right now, I would read through these. That way later in the book, when I see the term astral dungeon, I know that that is a pocket dimension within the astral realm. And I don't have to go flipping back. So I like that. They're spelling Jinn. I guess the spelling we're going with here is Jinn. Ooh, Jinfeller iron, a mystic metal that is said to fall from the sky. It is inherently magical. This metal is used to craft weapons for the drones. Wait, what's a drone? Ooh, a drone is a heavily armed and armored sorcerer. They belong to a mysterious society called the Order of the Ancient Drones. Well, there you go. Oh, Boho Heart is confirmed. Scorpion King is here. Excellent. All right, so we got a lot of good stuff in here. Again, I'm skipping over just because there's a lot here, and I am conscious of time, but I appreciate the definitions of giving us the definitions of terms. All right, so I am going to skip over the mechanics, but we do have some mechanics here, and I like that we have some nice tables laying out what they are. Again, I'm going to skip them, not because they're not important in the grand scheme of things, but I have to draw my lines as far as what I can do and what I can't do. But we got them. Bohar says, you can tell I'm a teacher with the front loading of the glossary. Hey, if that's, I mean, I'm not a teacher and I am fully on board with the glossary at the front. I'm going to say that just one of my things, I'm not going to call it a pet peeve, one of my guiding things I like is when you define terms before you use them. And it drives me just a little bit nuts when I see something and they'll be telling us all this stuff, and then half of that stuff I have to look later in the book to figure out what it means, because then I can't fully understand or appreciate the thing they're giving me because I haven't learned what the stuff means yet. I don't know. That's my own thing. Oh, yes, Brian Smith. Nice one. I am drawing my lines, in the sand. And given that we are in a sword or a swords and sandals type game, yes, it's perfectly in line to be drawing lines in sand. And the other thing is too, just by the way, like I did a video on a stream on talking with someone on Low Fantasy. It was one of my sell me ons on Low Fantasy Gaming. If you want to check that out, but I'm not. I've read through it. I'm not a super expert, so the reason why it's good to skip over some mechanical bits is I'm not going to remember or be be educated enough in the innards of Low Fantasy Gaming to know what's changed, what's not, so on and so forth. But we do get a good bit on here. The next section we have up is the history of the Kharesian Empire. Many ages and cycles on the Kharesian zodiac wheel. So I'm going to be kind of brief, but we have the Age of Eternal Reign, and then we have a quote from something called the Sunrise Codex. And this is all good stuff, and I think it's also probably good because then if you do end up backing this, I'm not spoiling everything. So if you want to read up on the histories, you can. The next is the Dawn of the Maiden, and we get a quote from the Chronicles of Maiden Book 1. Then we get the Birth of Gulhad. Ooh, who's Gulhad? Let's see. I'm just going to read this first bit because I just like the name. Sometimes a name just kind of gives you a little something, something, and Gulhad strikes my fancy. From the Sunrise Codex. There was a nameless son, born 1 century after Atara's wish in the lands that would become the Ice Kingdom. A young man who was strong as he was proud. In his mind, none could match him in both body or intellect. He and a small band of fellow warriors protected his village from the beasts of nature. Slowly, his word became law amongst his people, and they grew to both fear and respect him. Soon, the nameless son even believed himself to be greater than Atara. Well, you know that's just the beginning of the end. Anytime as a mortal, you start to think that you're the equal of a god, don't even say it. Just put it in the, seal that one up and swallow it. I mean, best not even think it, because nothing good happens when you start to make those comparisons. Next up, we have the First War. Then I guess an event, or I don't know if it's an age. Atara leaves her children, and then Zahra the First. Of her imperial this is from the Annals of the Sun Maidens. Of her imperial majesty Zahra we speak not, for the empire in her days was one of strife and turmoil. Zahra came to the imperial throne in the age of Cobra, cycle of the dolphin, year of the camel, and was the 8th daughter of the sun, succeeding her imperial majesty Ahasunu, and preceding her imperial majesty Kamasabas. Zahra was a handmaiden of Ahasunu, and was known for her silver tongue and commanding presence even before reaching her 2nd decade. After the crisis of the empire barely fending off the Rabisu in the Third War, the astrologers selected Zahra as a strong leader who would show resilience in the face of monsters. Ian, oh, you know what? Ian, you got me. I should have come out. The Ghostbusters quote, yeah, always a classic. It was definitely appropriate there. If someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. Yep. I just, as an aside, the summer that Ghostbusters came out, I saw it 9 times. So, just throwing that out there. And then we have something on the Ice Kingdom. Beyond the valley of the Grumish, awfully close to Grumsh. Be careful. When what Wizards of the Coast see that name, they might come after you. A little too close to old one-eyed Grumsh. I think that's who it is, right? But this is Grumish. So. Ooh. The altar of Gulhad. Okay, so Gulhad did find some kind of godhood. And now I get some geography. And again, I appreciate all these are now, of course, in the book, I'm not, remember, this layout is a sort of pre-pro layout, right? So I don't know, can't say if I'm assuming maybe we'll get some, mappage in here. Maybe the map's on another page. Maybe it's after this, but obviously, I'm not going to comment much on the layout itself because this is a pre-layout copy. So just if you came late, if you go to the Kickstarter, you can see what the pages will look like once they go through their final layout phase. So go by that and not these images. We get some geography. Jakdar River, the outer Khares, the inner Khares, Kamut Falls, Jakdar Savannah, the Mohajo, the Hedaran Mountains, so on and so forth. Physical features. Oh, that's of the Medmu. And then we also have, I like that they're calling out these main features. Maps are being commissioned. Well, there you go. Cultures and ethnic groups. The Kharesian Empire is made up of an alliance of 3 separate ethnic groups, the Kharesians, the Belkites, and the Hedarans. These 3 ethnicities, though different, have a number of aspects in common, such as the worship of the sun goddess Atara, belief in democracy, and many shared cultural features. No ethnic group in the Kharesian Empire is viewed as superior or inferior to the other, and there are no systemic barriers to anyone. Well, that's nice. And I like that that's set up out of the box. We know that. We don't need to infer. We don't need to jump to our own conclusions. In the Empire, these 3 groups are living in peace and harmony. And we know, given that this is we're playing a fantasy role-playing game, there will be enough strife and discord coming from without and coming from other places. So we don't need to entertain. We can entertain that these might be actually doing a good job working together. Excuse me. I don't know what is up with my voice this week. These three ethnic groups view themselves as the body, mind, and soul of the empire. The Belkites are associated with the body, the Hedarans with the mind, and the Kharesians the soul. And then we're going to get some descriptions. So of the Kharesians are the founding culture of the Kharesian Empire. Their homeland is along the banks of the Jakhdar River in the Kharesian Desert and centered on the capital city of Khares. Auxiliary settlements can also be found in the desert oases and along small streams that form tributaries from the Jakhdar River. Kharesians make up the largest portion of the priesthood of Atara and the imperial bureaucracy. Typical jobs for Kharesians include agricultural, mining, and mining precious resources such as copper, tin, silver, and salt. Others stereotype the Kharesians as spiritual and proud, but aloof and haughty. Physically, Kharesians have skin tones that range from lightly tan to dark brown with dark black hair. The Kharesians style their hair by shaving the sides for a small amount on top, or completely shaving their heads for men, or growing their hair out long, or styling it into box braids for women, depending on hair texture. Kharesians also adorn themselves with jewelry, with sunflower and sun motifs being most popular. The Belkites are the most numerous people of the empire. Their homeland is found along the Belkite River and its tributaries and the surrounding valleys and plains. The hubs of the Belkites are the districts of Port Kalito and Apistu. The Belkites form the industrial and financial heartland of the empire and are the cogs that keep the empire going. The Belkites devote a significant portion of arable land in their homelands to the production of cash crops such as cotton, papyrus, ditch leaves, sugar beets, and hemp. The mountains east of the Belkite River are rich in silver, which results in Port Kalito minting the majority of shekels for the empire. The Belkites also produce a plethora of finished goods for the empire, including but not limited to pottery, bronze items, leather, cloth, paper, sunflower, seed oil, wine, vinegars, flour, noodles, and sugar. The Belkites form the largest portion of the imperial forces, and the Lugal and Ensi are disproportionately of Belkite heritage. They were masters of domesticating zebra and using chariots. Physically, the Belkites have olive skin tones, but some have fairer skin. Their hair ranges in color from reddish brown to black. Men tend to grow thick beards. Belkite men sport short cropped hair, while women grow their hair long. And then finally, the Hadarans. The Hadarans are the smallest ethnic group of the empire. Oops, typo there. Oh, just a little note there for you. The smallest ethnic group of the empire. Their homeland is off the southwestern coast on the island of Hadara. The Hadarans also have a presence along the delta and surrounding grasslands at the mouth of the Jakhdar River on the mainland. The Hadarans are centered on the district of Medmu on the island of Hadar. Hadarans on the mainland tend to be shepherds and herd animals such as goats, sheep, ass, cattle, zebras, and an occasional elephant. The other major export of the Hadarans are high-end commodities. The sunflower seed oil, fish sauces, vinegars, and wines of the Hadarans have no equal and are found on the tables of the wealthy throughout the empire. The jewel of the Hadaran people is the University of Medmu. This university houses the largest collection of literature and records in the empire. Medicine and astronomy are studied extensively by the university. People from throughout the empire seek out the university, either as students or a valuable repository of knowledge. So much mail is addressed to the university that the imperial post office that serves the city of Medmu is located within the university campus. Physically, the Hadarans have dark brown to black skin tones with dark black eyes and hair. The Hadarans style their hair into long braids, with men tying them back into a single top knot, while women tie their braids into two separate bunches. Some men grow short beards. Hadarans tend to be lanky and thin. So there we go. Brian Smith asks, any non-humans so far? No, though they haven't strictly said that they are. I guess we take it as writ that they're humans, but they haven't actually used the term human, have they? But no, I haven't seen it. I think the assumption I would guess is that these are all humans so far, right? It just says ethnic groups. Maybe somewhere else it says that they're actually all humans. I suppose that's a good presumption, especially for kind of a sort of OSR, LF. I don't know if low fantasy gaming is kind of human centric. OSR tends to be. So yeah, I would, even though I haven't said so, I would guess humans. So we have outsiders. I'm not going to read through these as much detail. We have the Groomish. Doesn't say if they're. I'm actually just going to look and see if there are any non-humans. So the Groomish seem to be they're human as well. could get some. I like the cultural notes of the bullet points, so I'll just read those. So for the Grumish do not have a taboo on birds. So waterfowl, quails, and gamefowl, and their eggs are eaten. I mean, that's an interesting note, but I don't. Did one of the other ones say that any of the other group? None of the other groups I saw actually said that they did have a taboo on those. So it might be good to know who does, because then you get the Grumish saying, "Well, they don't," but it doesn't. It's a little bit. The context is a little bit off. The Grumish do not follow Atara, instead choosing to worship the good stranger. Ah, the good stranger. And the Grumish are known for their rich and decadent cuisine. Grumish chefs are in high demand amongst the wealthy. So there you have those. You have the Jibalans, small city-state kingdom. For them, the cultural notes are elephants are revered in Jibalan culture and have been domesticated to use as work and war animals. They're vegetarians and they worship the sun goddess, but view their king as the consort of the Kharesian empress. The cleric in Khares disagrees with the statement, as they would. Yeah, well, yeah, I do like the cultural taboo. It doesn't look like they all have one. So the Grumish have like a lack of taboo. They don't, they don't have one per se. They just don't follow this other one. The Jibalans don't have a taboo per se, but they do revere elephants. That you could kind of turn that into some kind of taboo statement if you wanted to. If there's something that they will not do with elephants or not, you could obviously flip the vegetarian part into a taboo against meats, perhaps. But that taboo kind of assumes that it's not only that they not do it, but it's kind of frowned upon at minimum or punished at towards the maximum. And we don't know that that's the case yet. Maybe we can infer them. And then we have the Kotu. So the Kotu, their notes are they die for pearls and they use them extensively in jewelry and for trading. They let's see, they are really excellent musical instruments such as bamboo flutes and drums. They follow an elaborate face painting tradition, and they're notoriously xenophobic, isolationist, and protective of their homeland and bar entry to all foreigners. So that is definitely a taboo of sorts. Cannot come in. But here we have a whole chapter on culture, customs, and colloquialisms, which I am not going to go through all in depth. We have a section here on motifs and tropes. The sun, the courier parrot, sunflowers, the lioness, the maiden. See, I really like these a lot because by breaking them out like this, me as the GM, if I'm looking for, because we talk about it all the time in locations and in dungeons and things like that, theming them out, coming up with these kind of contexts and sort of touchstones for areas. And here he's giving us a whole bunch of these that we can pick and choose. So then if I'm going to, I need some elements of a dungeon, I can kind of go through here and I can say, oh yeah, parrot, that's good. Or sunflowers will work really well. Or oh, the lioness and the sun, those are great. And I can lean into them. And then over time, if you're playing in this setting, your players will become aware of them just because of the repetition you're making of bringing up these symbols, so that when you do deploy them at the table, it becomes a language that they'll pick up on quickly, right? So they'll see the lioness, and if we've established the lioness as a symbol of something, then when they see the lioness somewhere, even if it's something, say, like graffiti, that will tell them something or cue them off to something that we can build on. I mean, you have to build that stuff up, but it starts with kind of having a roster of these tropes and motifs that you could pull from. And so I appreciate that he's given us one here that we can have. I think the only thing I might like for this is to kind of maybe as part of the headers to maybe put like which groups this, because we have all these ethnic groups, which is great. And I'd like to know as a shorthand. Sure, I can read through for the sun and say, oh, it's the Kharesian Empire. If I had a little, say, just a little comma delimited list beneath the title, oh, the sun, and oh, this Kharesian Empire and this other one, right? That's who that applies to, or this one, just the Kharesian Empire. Okay, great. And then if I come down the lioness, or maybe one other one, what's one that maybe they will find some that don't apply to the empire? They apply to one of the outsider ones or a specific culture within the empire, then I can just see that. And then I can, if I'm looking for something, I just have a little bit of a bullet, just a little thing to pull my eye. Obviously, that stuff will come out in the layout, but I'm throwing it in here in case Boho listens back to this later. Steal that idea. We've got a section on gender and sexuality. No gender or sexuality is inherently oppressed by systemic methods. That's great. And hey, if you're non-cis, you live freely in the empire, which is also great. Literacy, most people in the Kharesian Empire are illiterate. Only about 10% of all citizens are able to read and write and are largely concentrated in the priesthood. Most Kharesians, however, are able to read and record numbers up to 500, read dates on a calendar, and perform basic arithmetic necessary for their lives. And then we have some holidays and festivals. These are excellent. The coronation, the jubilee, the festival of Mar Pachet. This festival is held upon successful completion of the harvest when the rivers that are vital to Kharesian architecture, I keep trying to say architecture for some reason. This festival is held upon successful completion of the harvest when the rivers that are vital to the Kharesian agriculture begin to flood. During this festival, cities and towns are decorated with sunflowers. Communal feasts are held throughout this time, as the storehouses have been replenished with cereals, dates, and sunflower seeds amongst other crops. Merchants travel to the cities to sell their wares, while the streets are filled with the sense of steamed date cakes, roasted sunflower seeds, and stir-fried mutton drenched in savory sauces. There are religious devotions done to Mar Pachet in mornings. As this is often the largest festival of the year, the city lights up with travelers and merchants. Stir-fried mutton drenched in savory sauces. Where's Gimli when we need him? He will be all over that. We have the days of Mar Eshmun. This is let's see, celebration of the worker. Very nice. The retirement of the animals. Mar Ambrotus days. Birth and death cycle. Well, that's another section. So Kharesians believe in reincarnation. It is believed that the souls live countless lives, which they are tasked with giving service to the Empress and Atara. Kharesians believe that each soul carries the deeds of their past lives, both good and evil, and only upon accruing enough good can a soul escape from the cycle of rebirth and join the maiden in her celestial palace. So there we go. That's good. And then we get some food and drink. And look at this, a nice table full of vegetables, fruits, nuts, and meats that are their kind of staple foods, which is excellent because when you want to come up with what's being eaten in the tavern, easy to come back to this page and grab something. I might say, and again, this is a layout thing, so take it and run with it, but if you put it in in tabular, in some kind of rollable tabular form, even better. Even better on top of it, if you added a column with how they might eat it. Like, if they like to stew of something and something else, right? Or they stew in a soup, in roasted over an open flame, kebabbed, be some more kind of good ideas. But this is great. And then we even get some lists of common and rare herbs and spices, all those special herbs and spices. Common ones include beet sugar, date syrup, birch syrup, salt, black pepper, mustard seed, coriander, garlic, rosemary, sage, and so on. And the rare ones, chili powder, ginger powder, saffron, vanilla, cocoa, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, palm sugar, and honey. Very nice. We even get some entertainment. Citizens of the empire have many options to entertain themselves. We get, music, talking about bards, all kinds of stuff. Looks like we might have gladiatorial combat there. Oh, boxing? Ooh. By far the most popular form of entertainment in the Kharesian Empire is boxing. Now, I remember I've seen there's a boxer class, so it makes sense that they would have that. So you can box for money. And then we get some superstitions and taboos. All of that. And now we get another section on society and structure, community and family life, commoners and patricians and clergy, keeping time. Yes, we can keep time. We got the three seasons, a dry, a flood season, and a mud season. During the dry season, you harvest. In the flood season, you labor. In the mud season, you plant. Man, I really dig there's a lot of detail in here. I know I'm kind of skipping through it. Hopefully you're seeing this on the page. So you're seeing that, all the paragraphs that I'm kind of going through quickly, or I'm just reading the headers because there's a lot there's a lot here. This is giving a lot of. It reminds me a bit, and I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, to give a quick to look. But there's I bought it ages ago. I want to say in Google Plus, back when the Google Plus had a really good sort of role playing game book. Basically, what was it like? I guess it was like a sales group. You could like a market group, and it was called The Road of Kings. And I forget who wrote it. It was written for Conan, but it had no mechanics in it. It was just all a book, basically, just about all the setting information for playing in that kind of Hyboria or playing in the kind of Age of Conan type game. And it had a lot of nice stuff. And this reminds me of that. This, I think, has more tables than that one did, I think, but it's been a long time since I've looked at it. But you're just getting a lot of stuff, and you can always, and I think the thing is when getting a lot of stuff like that is, while it can seem overwhelming, you don't have to use everything. But when you need something in the moment, and you don't, inspiration has left you behind, or you just need something to be able to come and find it. It's great. And then when you want to take some time and read into it, you can. So having the seasons laid out for you with that's excellent. Right? Just give me that general sense of the time of year, what, even just knowing dry, flooded mud, that just gives me an idea in my mind of what the weather and kind of environment's like, even though it's not telling me exactly. And I could be off in my mind, but even if I just run with that, that's great. And then the work that's happening. So if I'm narrating them, say, traveling through an area, I have an idea in my brain what people are doing. Or the zodiac signs, I love to play with all that stuff. And then even have converting their timekeeping units to solar years when you want to figure that out, or if you want to. So really good stuff. So even though I'm kind of skipping over there's all this content going with each one of these headers when I'm just saying economy and social services, and then I'm passing on because I'm trying to get through as much as I can in the time I have. It's not because that's all they say. There's quite a bit said. I'm just trying to keep it moving, as they say. War Bunny, welcome. Hoppity hop, hippity hop. Witch Hill says this all looks really well thought out. I agree. I agree completely. And we even get taxes in here. So economy and social services, we get a section on the labor tax, the assets tax, and then other taxes. And then on highways and the Parrot Post. The Parrot Post is the pride of the empire. Each district of the empire has a post office that serves the city, in addition to smaller satellite post offices in larger rural towns. Messages are sent by tying letters written on papyrus or birch paper to the leg of a Kharesian courier parrot. Parrot then flies to the imperial post office it is addressed to. Letters can only be delivered to post offices. The post office boasts about having a guaranteed 1-week delivery time to any post office in the empire. Parrot Post is essential in running the empire as it allows quick communication between districts and church bureaucracy. Snoopy Dog, welcome. Well, that's awesome. And then the Parrot Post has a monopoly on those birds, which are close to extinction in the wild. Owning a Kharesian courier parrot by private individuals is illegal. Some criminals engaged in shady activities own and train them to use as discreet messengers. Whew, so all of that. And then on to law and order. We get another nice table that has the duties and whether you're kind of in an imperial area or just in a district, and also the officials. So the imperial officials include the empress, the lugal, the ensi, the clergy of Atara, and the imperial magistrate. And then in districts, you have viziers, nomarchs, patricians, delegates of the commons, imperial inquisitors, petty magistrates, and warrant magistrates. And we're getting details on all of those, which I'm breezing through, but there's a lot. We get information on the empress, the lugal, which is a first among equals, serves as a quote unquote first among equals among the ensi. And the ensi are a military council that are democratically elected by the enlisted soldiers of the imperial forces. That's kind of an interesting system. Brian Smith asks, so I can play as an underground parrot breeder? I don't see why not. You'd be in trouble. You'd be breaking the law, but you totally could. And this is tea, black tea with milk for the working man. Stupid Dog asks, is this for Dungeons and Dragons? Close. It's for low fantasy gaming, which is a independent but very heavily based on old school Dungeons and Dragons system. I think especially with this, you could easily convert all of this to say 5th edition or any other version of Dungeons and Dragons if you wanted to. There was some mechanical information that I skipped over at the beginning, so you probably want to read through that to see if there's anything that you'd need to kind of tweak or just convert. But it seems like a lot of this, now there are some classes and things that I think we'll get to. I know there's a boxer class and some other ones, so those might need some conversion depending on what version of D&D you're looking at, but it's very D&D adjacent. I think that's probably a safe bet to call it that. If you've never heard of Low Fantasy Gaming, Snoopy Dog, it's kind of an OSR system. I had a conversation. If you look back on my channel and you look up Low Fantasy Gaming or Sell Me On, you'll see where I did an episode of the stream or someone where we talked about that. And so you can kind of, if you prefer to watch rather than kind of read, because I believe it's either there's a free version or you can get something, you can look it up also that way. But I'm pretty sure there's some way you can kind of take at least a look at the content before you plunk down any monies for anything. But you can check out that video, which we talk about it a bunch. The clergy, the vizier, patrician, delegate of commons, imperial inquisitors, warrant magistrates, imperial magistrates, petty magistrates, nomarchs. They're basically a combo sheriff and bailiff. And then you get the court of patricians and commons. We have a section on civil liberties. So what rights do you have? Every citizen has a right to trial. They have the right of innocence. They have the right to privacy. They have the right of humanity and the right of suffrage. I like that they laid these out too. Definitely his background as a teacher is shining through. Boy, they just laid it out there nice and clear. Let's see. Brian Smith said that in the beginning intro mentioned psychedelic sword and sandal, but so far seems very mundane, realistic. I guess so far, Brian Smith, yes. Now, of course, because I'm going through in quick fashion some of these, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm guessing we're not finding psychedelia hidden in the descriptions for petty courts, but I haven't read through everything. We'll see. But yes, the psychedelic part will be interesting to see like where that happens. But I guess I would say that I appreciate that even though maybe it'll get psychedelic or more fantastical later on, we've got a really nice groundwork, which I think is good. I like having that. You know, you have this nice groundwork where everything feels very grounded, very like, okay, I can get with this pseudo historical or kind of, you know, where you can just feel like, even though it's not real history, it kind of feels like, all right, this is a living place I can kind of wrap my brain around. And then you can start throwing stuff right on top of it. Snoopy Dog says they have more rights than we do now. Yes. Tim West says, would I say this is more of a pre-made setting or tools to make your own setting? I would say it's a pre-made setting, Tim West. I think there are tools you could use in here. I don't know if they're tools. It's not like Worlds Without Number, unless we get to the end and there are a bunch of tables that let you just generate your own stuff. But I would say it's something that I think, I kind of feel like I like having this because I'm going to look at this and say, as a guide for what kind of stuff I should think about if I was coming up with a setting. When I'm writing down a culture for my game, what kind of stuff should I think about? And yeah, thinking about the ethnic groups and how they relate, thinking about the rights that they have, thinking about the kind of apparatus, law and order apparatus, maybe not in this much detail, but thinking about that stuff are good. So no, I don't think it is just meant to be just this particular setting, but I could see value in it as like a template for, yeah, what kind of stuff should I have? And then we look at a list of crimes and punishments. If you commit arson, you are killed by impalement. If you commit assault, you are imprisoned and you have to pay restitution to the victim. Maiming is an eye for an eye situation. Murder and political corruption are both death by impalement. I guess that's how you that's their punishing death is you get impaled to death. Is it like the quick impaling or is it one of those slow ones? Let's see what we have here. So I'm just breezing through. So spirituality, this might get more. It's probably not too psychedelic. So we heard about the spirituality in the Empire. We read about Atara already. There's the Imperial cult. The prophecy of the sun is a collection of religious manuscripts predicting future events and recording past events. They typically are the results of prophets who became overwhelmed by the spirit of Atara and recorded visions they see in flowery prose. Notes on the clergy. Ooh, the Mars are far more common subjects of religious devotion for the average Kharesian. A Mar is a person. the Church of Atara and the Kharesian Empire have deemed worthy of worship and veneration. So basically, we're talking about your kind of saints or prophets or something like that. So we get some names. Pashet is the mar of farmers, agriculture, and rain, and their imagery is a basket of sunflowers, grapes, and grain. I'm just going to repeat the fact I really like having this imagery stuff. Again, if I wanted to then, let's say I rolled up something random and I was like, okay, you ran across a shrine to, let's say, Ambrotis. I can look and say, ooh, boxers. And then when I want to describe something in that shrine, hippopotamus with ox horns, stylized glyph, like, bam, I can pick up on those and I can even add on to it that maybe more imagery, of that sort would come up. So I'm digging it. Oh, Brian Smith wants to know, what is there the crime of where was it? Owning a illegal parrot. Let's see. Do we have it there? Would that be political corruption, death by impalement? I don't know if that would. I'm not sure. Ooh, it's a good question. Maybe theft? No. I don't know, but I you know what? They should have. I would say boho. Just got home. They can answer questions. Boho, you need to add to your crime and punishment table, because it was mentioned, since it's illegal to own your own courier parrot. We demand to know what the penalty for being caught with a illegally owned courier parrot is. I'm with you, Brian Smith. It was called out as illegal, so I must know, what is the penalty for owning a Kharesian courier parrot illegally? Ah, Brian, and then answering about the psychedelics, they come later and in the visuals. Snoopy Dog says, so this is a fantasy world with maps of the world. Yes, Snoopy Dog. Well, Boho will answer also, but so keep in mind, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, this is an early draft version. It's not final. It hasn't gone through layouts. There's there's going to be some images in here, but some things like cartography are not in here yet. So I expect, as Boho can answer more about maps and things like that. Now, I don't know if this encompasses an entire world or an area that you can then plug into your existing world if you want. But yes, it is a fantasy world ultimately, based on kind of swords and sandals fantasy is what it is. Rabisu tribute cults, Gulhad covens. A Gulhad coven is the most dangerous of all Gulhad cults. A coven made up of 7 Magus who serve Gulhad and his dogma. Coven is able to summon and create Rabizus in exchange for human and animal sacrifices. Ew. A Gulhad coven, typo. Gulhad coven will typically enthrall an area into serving them, with faithful servants abducting livestock and humans to sacrifice to Gulhad. And then the Rabizu. Oh, yes, we do get this one in dice table form. Roll a 2d6. Might get a false musin, a rust ape, a manafant, a rust ape shaman, an atusef, a were hyena, medusa. Tim West says that they have a similar swords and sandals setting, but more Asian influences that they're compiling into a PDF, but it will be a construction kit. Ah, nice. I dig both types of settings. I like settings like this that just give me everything, and I also like the construction kit type as well. I dig them both, but that's cool, Tim West. Let me know. I'd love to see it whenever you finalize it. The Asian settings, besides the very kind of stereotypical ones, you don't see that too much. Army of the Moon, Prophecy of the Moon. What's this? Is this? I think this is probably just a sample town. I don't know. So we have districts and demographics. The Kharesian Empire is divided into 4 administrative districts. Each district has its own character and flavor, but still shares a common culture. The 4 districts have an outline with basic information and background information. The district write-ups also include ideas for factions and NPCs, as well as a rumor table. GMs are encouraged to use this information as a baseline and expand upon them as needed. So the 4 districts are Port Kalido, Khares, Medmu, and Apistu. Forced labor. Oh, Boho says most of his tables are in the appendix, which hopefully we'll get to, though I'm already down to, might have to go into overtime because it's already at the 49th minute. I feel like I've been racing. Forced labor, that's the penalty for owning an illegal illegal courier parrot, forced labor. Ooh, he's running a game today. Nice. Tubi Dog says it seems like a Middle East setting so far. Yeah, I would say like Middle East, Eastern Mediterranean area. I think that would be accurate. Ryan Smith says, so my black market parrot breeder will most likely die in the mines if he gets found out. Yeah, or, that just becomes an adventure. Heck, that could be the beginning of your adventures. Brian Smith, you were an illegal courier parrot breeder. You were captured. Now you were sent into the mines. And, oh, goodness, look, there was an accident in the mines and something horrible is rising up from the depths. Roll initiative. So the Khares district, I'm just going to look through just the main bolded things here just to kind of outline the sort of information we're getting and not go into specifics because time. We get themes, culture, a population, a ruler, exports, climate, and their patron saint. All great stuff. They have the ruler, great, we got that. Who's their kind of patron saint? That's nice. I like the themes. The seat of imperial power, mysticism, and then we get more details in the overview, which I'm going to skip. We get factions, which I'm just mentioning that they're here, but as was mentioned in the intro bits of this part of the book, but I'm not going to get into details because I don't have time, but they're here. And then we get factions, NPCs, tables of adventure hooks and rumors. It's a D20 roll. Then we move on to Medmu, whose themes are luxury and knowledge. Their patron Mar is Mar Sabit. Parveen the Vizier is their ruler. Same deal. Port Kalito, the financial center of the empire. Their culture is Belkite. Their patron Mar is Mar Nanum. Their ruler is Ubar the Vizier. And we get more hooks. And now into Apistu, the industrial heart of the empire. Also Belkite. Their ruler is Aloris the Vizier. And their patron Mar is Mar Eshmun. Francis says, well, I guess I'll have to sell out the others for leniency. Yeah, that's a good plan. As long as you're first to sell out. All right, so the classes now. So now we're getting to character creation. And because I am no expert on low fantasy gaming, and so I'm not going to get super into it, right? But we'll just go through the kind of classes that are available. We have a barbarian. I like that we have descriptions, kind of what it means in this context. So in the context of the Kharesian Empire and surroundings, a barbarian is a warrior from a rural area of the empire or maybe outside it. We also have bards, boxers, drones, who are those armored warriors that are able to use sorcery. We have fighters, a magus, a maklu, a mobed, a nomad, penthu, and a rogue. A mobed is a priest of Atara who can use sorcery. A maklu is an exorcist that also serves Atara. Magus is a sorcerer. A penthu is a physician with access to medicines, drugs, and poisons. And then we have rogues. Witch Hill says, you definitely have to, well, I'm definitely going to have to get back this project. It looks great. I agree. I agree completely. All right, so I'm going to skip the character creation stuff, but it's there if you need it. We have some LFG class notes. The following 4 classes are outlined in the Low Fantasy Gaming Core Rulebook. Unless otherwise noted here, these classes are mechanically identical to the ones presented in those pages. Basic information is provided below. So the ones that are kind of your generic Low Fantasy Gaming classes are those Barbarian, Bard, Fighter, and Rogue. We got that. We got some nice tables laying out everything for them. Same thing. Now we get into the custom or the specific classes for this setting. We have the boxer. Boxers, they can box. Their hit points. This image. They get maneuvers. Stunning maneuver. So they get stunning jabs, fighting instincts, lion spirits, lightning reflex. There's a whole list of these that you can learn. At first level, a boxer knows a number of maneuvers equal to their will modifier. Each odd level thereafter, a boxer learns 1 additional maneuver, and if desired, may substitute one known maneuver for another. I'll just read the first one, stunning jab. With intense focus and knowledge of the human body, the boxer can land a blow that staggers an opponent for a moment. And mechanically, that's on a failed luck save. The target struck loses its next action. So there you go. You get all kinds of boxing styles. Those are maneuvers, and then you get style. Okay, so first we have maneuvers, and then you get styles. So it's styles you pick up at 1st, 5th, and 10th level. An example style would be Southpaw. Fighting in a mirrored stance allows the boxer an increased chance to catch an opponent off guard, but opens them up to attack. A boxer can take this stance and gain a +2 to attack rolls at a penalty of -2 AC. A boxer can switch between southpaw and traditional stance at the beginning of their turns. That's cool, and that's that's definitely a boxery kind of thing. And you can also do grappling, brawling, ground and pound. You gain a street reputation, get some unique skills, and then kind of their version of a domain feature would be the boxing hall. Open your own gym. Next, we get drones. Charismatic. The drones are a mysterious order of sorcerers active in the Kharesian Empire. No one is quite sure who they are or what their purpose is, but both the Empire and Church of Atara claim they are not associated with them. Regardless, the drones are treated with both fear and respect by most within the Kharesian Empire. There you go. So I looked at the kind of boxer as an example, but I think we're getting kind of similar layouts here with sort of secrets, which would be similar to the kind of maneuvers. They get some abilities like Divine Strike and Prophetic Intervention, and their domain level bit is a drone hive. We get some good stuff. And then the Magus, which is a sorcerer outside the priesthood of Atara in the Kharesian Empire. A Magus could be a thrall of the moon god, a witch living on the edges of society, or simply an eccentric old man who happens to learn to use sorcery through luck and trial and error. There you go. And then they get some Sahars, and these are the spells. We have a list of the spells. First degree, they're broken down into degrees. First degree, second degree, third degree, murder. They also have some other abilities: Attuned Mind, Battle Magic, and their domain feature is the Magus Coven. Now on to the Maklu. These are exorcists of the priesthood of Atara. I'm guessing they're going to have that kind of that sort of turn undead kind of thing going on, maybe. Brian Smith says the drones have a hive as there are more to them with the bee insect theme. I'm not sure, Brian Smith. A mystery that you may have to solve for us. Oops. The Mobed. These are the few of the priesthood of Atara that have some knowledge and ability to use sorcery. Let's see, they have Negozi. What's a Negozi? Okay, so they call their sort of sorceress abilities Negozi, and they get a bunch. Also get abilities like Bronze Will and Miracle Worker, and their domain level is to establish an esoteric order. Nomad, hunter, shepherd, recluse, living in the remote areas of the Empire. They get survival skills, potential beast companion. They can become a master hunter. And what is their domain is an outpost. Baby Dog says boxing doesn't mix with weapons like swords and axes, in my opinion. In bold, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. I think I agree with you. I'm not gonna say it doesn't mix. I guess it can be difficult. It can be difficult. You have to be kind of careful, right? Because one ends up just becoming. You want to make the options. I don't necessarily think they have to have absolute parity, but you don't want to make it so one-sided that, well, there's no, everyone's carrying around a sword, so why would I ever box? Or on the flip side, if boxing's so amazing, why would I carry around a sword? But I give them ups and downs. In certain, things like kung fu movies, if you were a master, boxer, then you were deflecting metal with your arms and things so that you were kind of on parity that way. And then in other situations, you might not be able to have your sword everywhere. Maybe you get a lot of places you get your weapons taken away. You're in a place you don't have weapons. But guess what? If your hands are your weapons, then you always have them with you, assuming nobody cuts off your hands. Brian Smith says, just include the weapons in your weight, then use weight classes. So a 50-pound dude with 50 pounds of armor / weapons versus a 100-pound dude seems fair. Is that? I don't know. Stupid Dog says, give me a sword against a professional boxer, then bet on me. You know what? You say that, but if you know how to use a sword, I might say yes. But if you're given a weapon you don't know how to use with, and you don't miss, because I could see if you have a sword or an axe that's you're not terribly balanced with, and you take one kind of sloppy swing and you don't connect, I mean, that boxer is going to be in on you, and you might not get another swing. Might be who goes first. The Penthu, these are the medical staff. They get medical training. They get a portable pharmacy, illicit stash. They get substances and effects, a whole tabular bunch of those. Smelling salts, surgical strike, and then their domain features a medical college. And then we get just a rundown of unique features and skills. Ooh, I like this. The Blessed Klutz. This ability allows for a PC to turn a fumble into an accidental hit. When a natural 1 is made on an attack roll, there's a 1 in 6 chance the attack actually connects in an incredibly convoluted and slapstick way. Anyone else observing this attack, it appears to be intentional and impressive. I like that. That's cute. That's nice. Brad wants to know where the inspiration for the drones comes from. People want to know about the drones. That's going to be the great mystery of Khares. Where are the drones from? Let's see. We get onto money. And they're saying, yeah, we're using coins. The Empire mints coins, even though it might not be period authentic. They're using coins. Shekels worth 10 pennies. 1 Derrick is worth 50 shekels or 500 pennies. And a whole Imperial ingot is worth 100 Derrick. And then we got some tables. We have money changers. We got some equipment lists from, see, plentiful to common to uncommon to rare. And I like that they have a variable cost. Ranged weapons, we have javelins, longbows, shortbows, and slings. Boho says that they're like Bronze Age Jedi / Paladins, essentially. The B thing is to show they're all of one mind, a hive mind. Oh, very nice. All right, we got rundowns of weapons. I'm going to skip all those and the drug effects. We got animals and services, some additional rules. All right, I'm already over time. So since I'm in overtime, I'm going to be brief. Let's look at maybe one. So we get some kind of general things about Jinn and undead and Rabisu, natural beasts. I'm just going to read one of these to get an idea. This is an Atsufet, which is a Rabisu. Well, I'm really more, okay, we have all their. I'm not interested in the attributes at this moment, but I'm more in the flavor. So these 2-headed brutish beings are a chimera of opposites, resembling a 12-foot-tall humanoid hybrid of a woolly rhinoceros and a saber-toothed cat. Astufet have thick, shaggy hair and often wear crudely thrown together animal pelts or loincloths. They are notoriously as strong as they are dumb. When focused, they strike with deadly force. When flustered, however, such as on a critical fumble, the heads begin arguing with each other. If arguing, Astufet will take no actions for 1d4 rounds unless attacked, which causes them to instantly regain focus. Clever adventurers often take advantage of their stupidity to deceive them or gain advantages. These Rabisu have some immunities to sorcerer, and Atsufet has 33% magic resistance, and with 2 heads, they also have advantage on saves to resist mind-affecting magic. I really like that. Reminds me of that was that 2-headed knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I think that's how they escape that one as well, as they get the 2 heads arguing with each other, and then they just walk away. And we have some noble Jinn. And I suppose there's going to be some ignoble Jinn maybe later on. We have some more Cyclops, the Rabisu, a Dune Riders, and Undead. Lots of monsters in here. Scorpion, Menfet. There's your Scorpion. See a king? I don't see a crown on his head, but he's definitely a Scorpion warrior. Boa Heart says, Blessed Klutz is based on a PC in their game. I'm from playtesting. That's nice. I like it. It's a great one. It reminds me of like a Drunken Master Kung Fu style. Oh, we get different. What are those? Udug. That might have different heads, and you can roll for the kinds of heads they have, which is cool. Unseen Servant, which they're having as a type of Jinn. Were Hyena. Snoopy Dog says, I see 7 stats. What's the P for? Perception. Oh, yeah, I didn't even look. Yeah, P perception right there. Supernatural forces. Here we go. Dark and deadly magic rolls. Whenever a magical ability is used, whether it be sorcery, activating a magic item, or using a potion, a dark and deadly magic roll must be made. D20 is rolled, and if the number is higher than the user's dark and deadly magic score, it succeeds, and the user's dark and deadly magic score is increased by 1. Failing this roll, however, requires the user to roll 1d20 and suffer one of the effects on the Dark and Deadly Magic effect table. Triggering a Dark and Deadly Magic effect resets the Dark and Deadly Magic back to 1. There you go. There's a bunch of spells, and then the Dark and Deadly Magic effects are D20, ranging from nothing happens, 50%, or you are secretly possessed by a cunning djinn for 1d10 hours, also 50%. The GM tells the player covertly. So they know, but nobody else does. And then at 20 on the other side of the die, for the next 48 hours, the sorcerer hears the faint whispers of the recently deceased, imposing disadvantage on all rolls requiring concentration. Once per day, the sorcerer can focus on the whispers, and there is a 1 in 6 chance they are told something useful as determined by the GM. Bohart, I saw the Menhit. So yeah, I'll go there. There you go. The Scorpion Warrior. Not quite a king yet. I don't see a crown, but he's on the path. The path to kinghood. Astral realms and dungeons. So we have some astral and those astral dungeons. How do astral dungeons work? Whenever a magical ability or item is used, in addition to the Dark and Deadly Magic roll, an astral breach roll must be made using a percentile die. If they roll higher than their current astral breach level, they are successful. If they roll lower, it's a failure. Succeeding raises the level by 1. Failing resets the level back to 1. An astral dungeon is triggered upon failing a astral breach roll. When they fail, they and anyone within 30 feet are instantly spirited away to the astral realm. The party must enter and complete each room of the astral dungeon. Upon doing this, a rift opens and a temporary exit to the mortal realm becomes available. Whew, so that's like another. So you got to be careful when you're just throwing. Don't want to throw your magic around willy-nilly, because not only could you get some weird effects like we saw on the other table, but you could also end up in an astral dungeon. Probably want to stay within 30 feet though of the party, because what happens if that one guy that's 60 feet away at extreme range of their short bow did not get zapped in the astral dungeon? And then we have some tables for that. Magic items, relics, and artifacts. I'm going to skip over. I will leave this to you to discover. We get some unique magic items and a noble djinn and djinn wishes. Wow, and that's also laid out by the different types of djinn. And then we get oh my gosh, and now we're on to playing the game. I don't even have time for it, but we get why didn't I see this? See, this is why I sometimes kick myself for not flipping through these things first, because I totally would have gone through the sample of play. But now it's too late, but you get one. Oh, look at this. Come on, right up our alley. Sandbox games. Thank you, Boho, for including a section on sandbox games and sandbox play and some things, how to do it, including wandering monster generating and a hex map. Come on. And we even get an overworld travel section, not just land, could be sea. A section on encumbrance, hirelings, XP, and then on to dungeon crawling. Too much good stuff. Then we get a mini sandbox and some sample dungeons. Oh, not to mention a section on maintaining a sandbox. And then we get a nice hex map. Get some dungeons, a sample dungeon, which I don't have time to read through, and then a bunch more random generator tables. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've had to race through. Look at that. I'm going to make it to the end, but only because I'm skipping large swaths reading the stuff. But just look at the oodles of tables. And then we get some pre-generated characters. Bless you for including pre-generated characters. And then the open gaming license. And then that is the end. So this was exhausting only because there's so much here. And I could only scratch the sandy surface of everything that is here. Now, obviously, this is not final. I don't know if there's going to be further editing to that. It's definitely going to have layout. Actually, I'll just exit out of. Let me just exit. Yes, Acrobat, exit out. We'll come back here. You can see here, just to, for those who may have missed at the beginning, here is what it will look like in the more final layout form, along with cartography, all that fun stuff. Thanks so much, Boho, for sending this to me. It was fun to read through. I'll have to read through it in more depth. I feel like I got like the breadth of it, but I didn't get into all the depth. But there's a ton of great information. I really think there's anything I would feel like, from a setting, this is what I'd like to know. I mean, I think there's just so much there that if you need a setting and you like the idea of swords and sandals, then I think this is giving you everything you kind of need to get into. The psychedelic part is interesting because I think, like Brian Smith said, everything is so well grounded and feels really like almost like an alternate Earth that I don't get a big sense of the psychedelics. But then you get into stuff that I think is going to emerge more in play, that and in the artwork, stuff like the astral breaches and things like that may add a lot of that kind of color. And of course, you have jinns and spells and all these things I think that's going to add a lot of that more sort of the fantastical elements. But I think what's great about it is that I can see the setting working, even if you don't really want to get into too much psychedelia. If that's not your jam, I feel like the setting will still work for you, whether you want to play psychedelic style or not. I think this would be really great. Wyatt Smith digs the Scorpion Menfit. Oh yeah, one thing before we go, Boho. We were inquiring, is this human centric? It seems like the species of the peoples. I mean, obviously the pictures here show humans. Is this setting pretty much human only, or are there other species that are envisioned as being playable? Is there anything to that, or is it just basically just we're playing in kind of a humans versus the weird, the wild, and the unknown situation? And Bohar, I did see the hex map in the appendix, which is very nice. And that may be my last question that I have. And this is while I'm waiting, and if Boho's still here, you can answer that. While I'm waiting, I still have 24 days. And they're not quite, just shy of 50% pledged. So if you do think you might like this, then you could be the one to help it get over the top, get it past the finish line. Brian Smith wants to know if they can play a djinn, a sand creature, a sentient parrot. Might be tough to play a sentient parrot. The djinn kind of thing are interesting, or some of those other creatures are interesting. But I'm not averse to, hey, you're all humans. I actually kind of like you're all humans campaigns, because I just think it puts everyone on an even footing. And then what's fantastical to everybody is kind of, you could play off of that, kind of the unknown sort of thing. But then, of course, I have nothing against playing with tons of fantasy creatures running around either. Boho, if you missed it, tell me, is it human only or human centric? Can you play as other things? Are there other playable species you have in mind? Brian Smith says, for whatever reason, the rare parrot caught my fancy, hoping the art for that is fantastically psychedelic. I've noticed, Brian Smith, that yes, you did seem to be focused in on the parrot, but it's a nice touch. And I like that there's this parrot that kind of fulfills that sort of homing pigeon or carrier pigeon kind of sort of niche, I guess. And being a parrot, again, it's flavorful. It fits in with a lot of the fictional things like Jafar and his parrot and Aladdin and things like that. Check the cover art. Cover art this definitely has more psychedelia. Come in. The cover art is definitely gives you your bright, shiny colors. Not this image, but this image. You got a pyramid, a snake, all good stuff. But is it human only? Wrote it with humans in mind. Okay, there we go. You wrote it with humans in mind, but you can do what you'd like, though. Yeah, and I think, and the one thing, Snoopy, is that given that this is extremely close to D&D, very kind of, D&D adjacent, easy to convert, is I think you could easily convert either ye old fantasy races into this setting, or this stuff out into your kind of fantasy game, right? Your kind of other D&D or OSR or NSR or whatever, old school, new school, modern D&D game of choice. I don't think it would be very, very hard. So written as humans, but there was really nothing put in there where you could not just take those and turn some of the ethnic groups into species if you want, or just have species just spread out in those different ethnic groups, or have them be as whole other separate thing. All right, folks. Well, Boho, thanks again for shooting this over to me. This is the Golden Age of Khares. It can use your support. So if you're digging this, I know I did looking through it. You've got 24 days, but back it sooner rather than later. Let folks help them get over the hump and get funded. It was really fun. Boho says, I've never been really a fan of the classic fantasy races. Yeah, I get it. I think one thing maybe to look at, Boho, maybe your first supplement for the Golden Age of Khares is maybe some interesting idiosyncratic kind of species that fit your setting that or take some of the creatures and come up with that. Because I think that will not that it not having it, takes away any value, because I think there's a ton of value here. But I think for those who want to play those unhumans, inhumans, non-humans, maybe seeing your take on them, some different things, something different than ye old elf and dwarf and whatnot, might be a lot of fun. And you may be able to find some more inspiration from fiction, from movies, from mythology and everything to lean into. All right, folks, if on your way out you could give this a thumbs up, that would be awesome. If you found yourself in here and not subscribed to the channel, and you feel like subscribing, that would be awesome. Thanks again, Bohar, for letting me take a look at this. Everyone, this is the Golden Age of Khares. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Well, it's the Golden Age of Khares to me. You can pronounce it however you like. Hopefully this gets funded and we'll all be able to get this into our collections. But apart from all that, have a great rest of your day or night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody. And I will talk to you later. Bye now.